it was better than Ninja Turtles 3, which was the last one that was in the theater, or like the last, well, okay, it was the last live-action Ninja Turtle movie. So how do you feel about seeing the first live-action Turtle movie since Turtles 3?
You mentioned what you're talking about is the 2007 movie, which was the
animated
one, which a lot of people seem to have forgotten about.
Yeah, I don't know. Nobody gives a shit about the 2007 one anymore. I don't know why.
Whenever you're at the movie store, like Suncoast Video or something, you see
Yeah.
the collection of the Turtles movies. It's always like the 3 Turtles movies. They never like.
Yeah,
that's been forgotten.
Yeah, exactly. They've been playing the three from the 90s on TV a lot lately, and not the 2007 one. And you know what? I can kind of understand, because I think now the excitement of that movie's faded. It's kind of like now you look at it and you're like, oh well, this could have been like a made-for-DVD movie.
Yeah,
it was okay. You know, it wasn't like amazing or anything.
Yeah, the 2007 one was decent, but yeah, I can definitely see that. It seemed like something that would have been better just as like a special on television.
Yeah, I watched it recently, and I thought it kind of wasn't as exciting as I remembered.
I think it was exciting at the time because it was like, oh, a new Ninja Turtle movie.
Yeah,
but
finally.
Then it wasn't. It's like, eh.
Yeah, and then that's how we feel about this one. Was kind of like, oh, now it's exciting again because there's a new movie. But we also feel kind of like, you know, everybody's got on their minds like, oh crap, like. The turtles look ugly, obviously.
Yeah.
They look really ugly.
That's one of my big problems with this movie is I do not like how the turtles look at all.
It takes you out of it a little bit. I think while watching the movie, I got used to that. But the turtles are so lovable, and they have
What was wrong with the way the turtles looked? Like, Ninja Turtles was one of the most popular things, like, in the world, you know, as far as characters. And everybody loved the Ninja Turtles, how they looked, you know, just on the cartoon and in the comics and, like, you know... In the original movie, 1990, right? Or 1989, the original movie. Everybody loved how they looked. They were appealing. Why did they have to go and change them into, like, realistic-looking, ugly things?
Well,
I guess they
wouldn't say realistic,
you know,
but...
well, you know what? Well, more like a real turtle. But, like, people were fine that they didn't look like real turtles. Like, all these years, all of a sudden, they have to, like, try to make it look more like a real turtle.
I don't think it's even so much the look. I think that, you know, if it was a horror movie, maybe it'd be fine. But it's so freakishly contradictory to their personalities.
Yeah.
Like,
they're just not appealing to look at.
Lovable characters, but, yeah, gross looking.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, the only, even, you know, of all the things that happened in the movie... The most unrealistic thing that happened... Oh, and by the way, we're not going to do any, like, major spoilers yet. We're going to do some spoilers at the end. But right now, just minor spoilers. So
yeah, we'll let you know when we're going to talk about the spoiler stuff.
Like, we're not going to say any major plot points or anything like that yet. Maybe a little bit at the end, but we'll warn you before that.
You'll have your chance to pause or turn off the video.
But so what I'm about to tell you right now is something extremely minor, but what I thought was kind of funny is that the most unrealistic thing to me in the movie was that April O'Neil made a phone call on a payphone.
I don't remember that happening because I remember her pulling out her phone and you see like an advertisement for Skype.
No.
You know?
No, she was in an alley at one point on a payphone, and I was like, wow, a payphone.
Yeah. Do those exist still?
Not many. It's pretty much just wiped out.
Well, she is. They are in New York City, so I guess in New York City you can still.
Oh, are
them,
they?
I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, where do you want to go next with this?
Where do I want to go next?
Payphone, so.
I want to talk about how Vernon is in the movie, and you know, James and I did a video a few years back talking about some of the things that we wanted to see, and I do have to say this much for the movie, even though overall I didn't really care for the movie, it did meet a lot of the criteria that we wanted to see in the movie.
Yes.
One of the big things that we wanted to see was to bring back a lot of characters from the cartoon. Now, there was no Bebop and Rocksteady.
No Krang.
No Krang, but they did have Vernon and sort of Mr. Thompson, except Mr. Thompson was a Mrs. Thompson.
Well, it's Bernadette Thompson, played by Whoopi Goldberg, which to me, it's just a different character. They just put a different character there.
It was sort of the same name, though.
Yeah, because I always see Bern Thompson as this male boss who's kind of perverted and is kind of disrespectful to his co-workers or his employees. And, you know, it was a different take on it, obviously, but it was cool to see Vernon in there. I think they could have made him more of an asshole.
Yeah.
they could have made him a little more like the cartoon Vernon, but I can understand
Yeah, the
why
cartoon
they,
Vernon was like a dick.
Yeah.
And in this movie, there was parts where he was a little bit like rude, I guess, but
yeah, I can
he was kind
understand
of
why.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand why he wasn't as exaggerated as the cartoon, but
Well,
they
I don't
could've-
understand that. Like, why do you think they couldn't have made him more exaggerated?
I just think because they're making a live action movie out of it. Some certain characters they might have. I'm just saying like that's why they might have tried to tone him down a bit.
Yeah.
He was still kind of a dick, but he wasn't.
Right.
I think he could have still went farther.
Yeah, I liked in the cartoon when he was like a sarcastic wise ass, and he wasn't really that way, which is kind of unfortunate.
Bruce Campbell should have played him.
Well, actually, I thought Will Arnett could have been a really good choice because he was in Arrested Development, and he's actually a really funny in that show. Like, I think they could have utilized him better, so I don't think it was the actor's fault. I think it was the way they wrote it, or But what else about this movie?
Like you said, the old video we did a video. I think when were we doing those Turtle Tuesdays?
It was a few years back.
2011 maybe.
Something like that. Yeah, a few years ago.
Something like that. Well, anyway, yeah, we did that video. See that video again. That's I stand by that video. All the things we said in there, I think still hold true. But the movie, like you said, did actually address some of those things. I won't say what yet. Let's hold off.
My main thing though, and one of the main points we had made in that video a few years ago, one of the main criteria that I didn't want to happen, which was this whole movie, was that they retold the origin story again. And what we had said before was, I don't want to see the origin story again. We all know who the Ninja Turtles are. We all know how they came about. Why do we have to hear that story again? And the argument is always, well, kids today, haven't heard it. They need to hear it. But it's like, come on. Like, how many times do we have to retell the same fucking story? It's like,
well, that's what I liked about the 2007 one, is that it just started and they're already going. It's like they didn't have to really go back. But at the same time, I agree with that, but at the same time, I kind of saw something in there that I never seen before. And
what was that?
Well, let's see. This is a minor spoiler, I guess, but it's when the turtles are young, they actually show them as before they're teenagers.
That I thought was actually kind of cool.
Yeah,
I like that.
It usually jumps from when they're baby turtles. You start to see them mutate, and then it kind of jumps ahead to them being teenagers. So it showed a lot that them learning all their skills and everything, and it was actually, I thought that was kind of charming to see them young. It could have been, and I imagine if they had, I don't know, there's just thoughts run through my head. I just was thinking of the movie Born Free, which is one of the most tear-jerking movies of all time, which is an amazing movie, by the way. But in that movie, you see a bunch of lion cubs growing up, and I imagine that as they could have made this Academy Award-winning Born Free of Ninja Turtles, of like having the turtles, showing them grow up over time, and like you just latch on to them, and they almost become like your own kids, seeing them grow up. That was just a thought. But no, I do not think they should do a prequel. They should not do Ninja Turtles: The Origin. Don't do that. Let's just move.
We all
forward.
know the story. Like, let's go to the next thing. They probably are going to make another movie after this, I'd imagine. So it'd be great if they could bring in some of the other things we'd want. Like, there was no Technodrome or any of that. I was glad that Shredder was in it, because I was worried a while back that they were going to use, like, aliens from outer space or something like that. So Shredder is in the movie. And I like that, but Shredder he had a bit of a crazy look to him.
I think you've seen the trailer. Like, you could see I thought that maybe that would be the Super Shredder version. Like, he gets beefed up at the end into some new armor and he's got new weapons. But
he reminded me of Megatron. He looked kind of like a Transformer.
Exactly. He looked like a Transformer. It was exaggerated, but at least it was good seeing Shredder in it.
Speaking of Transformers, they had a lot of shots in this movie that reminded me of the Transformers movies. How, there'll be action going on, but then they do slow-mo of them jumping through the air, which is like, that happens all the time in those, Michael Bay Transformers movies. And what did you think of when they do that? Do you like that?
When they did it in this movie, I was always kind of relieved. I'm like, oh, good, now I can actually see what's going on. Because a lot of times things are going so fast. For the most part, actually, I think the action in this movie was really well done. I think there were parts where it was like, okay, like it's enough, like like the camera's like moving all over and all this like fast cutting. And I think if you're making a movie with so much CG in it, that you have the luxury to make shots go on longer. It's not like you have to film something and make it all work in one take. That's why old action movies where they're using practical effects and everything it's you have to cut things up faster to make put it all together and make sense. But this time I think they should do more long shots.
Speaking of a long shot or a long thing, I thought that scene where they were going down the mountain, like, took forever. Like, how big was that fucking mountain? Like, it seemed like 20 minutes they were sliding down this mountain. That went on, like, way too long for me.
Yeah. I still thought it was a pretty good set piece. But, yeah, it went on a little bit. The action, I have two things, like, two contradictions, but, like, a plus and negative is that the ones that were done with the Jim Henson Company, the 1990 and
super appealing.
The first two Turtle movies,
not the third.
Really, well, they after that there's no Jim Henson. I guess the effects were really lowered in that one, but
no, it was lowered.
Yeah, but looking at the first one especially, the effects in that movie were really good. The animatronics and Splinter looked like an old beaten down rat. I mean, it looked so good. And this movie, they're all CG characters. So it makes you appreciate how good the effects were in the first Turtle movie. But also they did a lot of things with this that you couldn't have done in that. Like a lot of the things that they do.
Like Splinter would actually fight in this movie, which he didn't really in the original.
Which I was happy for. I was glad to see
to be fair, in the original, he did do the thing at the end where he's spinning the nunchucks and Shredder goes over the thing.
It was brief. Yeah.
But this movie had like a lot of action with Splinter, which is good because Splinter should be able to, kick some ass. So that was good to see.
Oh, I have to say I was really happy with the length of the movie, that it was under 2 hours, which is so rare nowadays to have a movie under 2 hours. And it just felt good. It felt like when you came out of it, it's like, okay, it didn't go on too long, and it was like, it was entertaining. I was entertained all of it. So in the beginning, I thought it was a little slow getting started.
I have to say, I hate that they threw in a fart joke.
Oh, of course, they always got to get
that.
The
was
fart
like, like really, you have to do that.
Should we go into major spoilers now?
Let's go into major spoilers.
Okay, so we'll talk about some, not too much, but like we'll talk about some major plot things or.
So if you don't want to hear anything, turn it off right now.
Tune out now.
There's your chance.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got for a major spoiler?
Let's see. Well, I think Splinter. I mean, I'm not gonna go too far with it, but one thing I said in our video about Splinter,
one of your criteria was met.
One of my criteria was met. Now it didn't. He didn't.
Your criteria was that
he was okay at the end, but something happened with him.
Yeah.
There was also a falling shot that I actually think was very notable because it was the first falling. The classic falling shots where everybody's, falling.
Like the Joker falling off of the building.
It was in like a lot of 80s and 90s movies, and usually it's someone laying on a blue screen and then they get like scaled down to the background, and then usually they never show the person fall. Although Turtles 3 had the distinction of being
the worst falling shot of all time.
Well, for the time, but and he implodes into himself. Walker just disappears. Why does that happen? Why does Walker just disappear?
I think they just got, by that point, the people who were making the movie got so lazy with it, they just forgot to finish the scene or something.
Well, why did they
didn't give a shit.
Why did they make him implode, though?
They were just like, fuck this movie. Let's not even finish
But the implosion effect, like, why was it done? Why didn't they just cut away?
Nobody can answer that question.
Nobody can answer that.
It should have cut away, and you should have heard splash.
But yeah, exactly. But
nope. Instead,
they made him implode. That's a mystery to this day. But anyway,
I feel like they didn't finish the effect. Maybe they were gonna add
there was gonna be a splash,
but then they just never put the splash in.
Yeah, it was like, okay, the movie. We need the movie. All right, done. Well, anyway, in this one, they did a good falling shot. They did one that was actually the best falling shot I might have ever seen that I can remember at the time. Because you know how they never show them fall. This time you actually see the impact. The camera follows them all the way down.
I was happy to see Shredder like in New York City on top of a building.
Yeah.
It reminded me of an episode of the cartoon show.
Yeah.
That was cool to see.
I like that the Turtles had to actually fight him, where you know, in the first Turtle movie, they fight them on the rooftop, but they just get their asses kicked the whole time. But this one, it's like, okay, they get their asses kicked, but they have to get better. They like have to get better as the fight goes on. So I thought that was really, really good. It wasn't like someone comes in and saves them or something. There's no 90-degree turn. It was like, okay, they're gonna start winning now. And that was cool.
Another one of my criteria that was met that I mentioned in the old video is I had a problem always with Donatello because in the cartoon he was an inventor, he was like a scientist, you know, and all that. And then in the movies they never really, you know, did much of that, and that always kind of annoyed me. You know, I was like, why doesn't he invent something? In this movie, I don't know that he necessarily really invented much, but he did some things that were more being like a scientist. He hacked into some computers. He hacked April's cell phone, and at one point, all the turtles are trapped, and he comes up with the idea of the adrenaline, and you know, that was great that April goes up to Donatello to say that. She didn't go up to Leonardo or Michelangelo. She went up to Donatello, and he figured that out. So I was happy that they, you know, showed that he was smart, you know, and he could figure things out. So I was happy about that. They could have went further with it. I would have liked him, like to see him actually, like, invent something really cool. But at least they, like, you know, paid tribute to that a bit.
Yeah. And I remembered something else that was on my criteria was I wanted to see Splinter have to kick the turtles' asses into shape.
And he does.
He does. I think I would have liked to seen it go farther and been like a big part of the movie because there's like a lot of old martial arts movies where the sensei has to really be brutal to get the student in the shape and like just as an example, Drunken Master with Jackie Chan. You know, he has to get trained and he has to do all these really rough things like he's like tied upside down and he has to reach back and get these cups and then fill them with water and then he has to like, you know, pull himself up and then fill these other buckets with them. And so he makes him do, the sensei makes him do all these ridiculous things and then he like eventually he escapes the sensei because he can't stand anymore. He gets away. And then he goes and fights this guy and gets his ass kicked. And then he comes crawling back to the sensei, begging him now to teach him more, you know. So I think that could have been a bigger part of the movie, but they did cover it. It was covered that Splinter made him do a bunch of things as training. But it was more like he was like punishing them and he teased them with pizza, which I thought was awesome.
That was good. I did like that.
But the only thing is, it was the only pizza part in the movie, I think. Because
that's not true. April was feeding them pizza like in the jar when she's like a little kid.
Okay.
There was a little bit more.
Like they didn't go too far at the pizza thing. I think they just knew that everybody knows that the turtles love pizza.
Right.
But it wasn't really established too much in this movie. Like if it had like one scene in the beginning where they went out of their way while they were fighting, like they went out of their way to grab some pizza at some opportunity.
You wanted to see a little more pizza, is what you're saying?
Basically, a little more pizza would have helped that pizza part.
It was definitely in there.
Pay off.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Another thing I'd like to mention is the intro and the very end. The intro I thought was really cool. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie, and it got me actually. I had the lowest expectations going into and seeing this movie, but when that came up and it was like animated and it kind of looked like the original comic, I was like, all right, you know, I'm with this movie so far. So I did like how they did the title credits, and I have to say at the end of the movie, while I did like that the beginning, the very end, I fucking hated the ending. I thought it was awful. I think
you mean like the tacked on ending?
The tacked on ending. Yeah. It was. After the falling shot, and I won't say what the falling shot is, but anybody that sees the movie will know, after the falling shot, they should have ended it pretty much like right there.
Yeah.
But then the movie goes on like another 5 or 10 minutes with this stupid... It ends with this stupid joke. And I understand that the turtles are supposed to be funny and all that, and that's great, and there are some funny parts in the movie, but I did not like how that ended.
To be fair, the first Turtle movie did have like a tacked on kind of joke part at the end, but
it was better. It was done a lot better.
It was done a lot better. Even the part with Casey Jones and April, you know, in the bottom, like when they're at street level, like it all just sort of, the movie did a good job at resolving itself. The first one, and then this one was kind of like, oh, we forgot to put the turtle van in there. Let's.
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted to. Well, we're on spoilers,
which they haven't done before in any of the movies, but now they kind of done.
So they bring the turtle van
Well,
in.
we already did the spoiler warning.
Yeah,
so.
then it drives away with Michelangelo, and there's some song going, and it's just not funny at all. If they would have cut the movie like, a few minutes earlier, it would have been a much stronger ending. I feel. So I didn't like that.
Yeah, I think that to sum it up, for me, it was okay. I thought it wasn't bad. It was entertaining all the way through, except the beginning was a little slow. Like it took a while for the turtles to get into the movie, but yeah, because all the other movies, the turtles are like, quick. They get into the movie really fast.
Mm-hmm. I thought the movie was way better than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like absolutely terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I did think this movie was better than Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was very good either. I thought it was like mediocre at best.
You know what I mean? Not to get back on the subject of Shredder again, but you think about how much better they revealed him in the first movie. Because this time he starts off and he's unmasked, which already it's kind of like, wasn't it cooler when you don't see his face until the end of the movie in the first one?
Yeah.
And also then he goes straight into completely armored Super Shredder mode, where I mean he's not Super Shredder. Super Shredder is the Turtles 2 when he gets mutated. He's not mutated. It's just this crazy armor he's got on. So it goes from two polar opposites, and then you never see his face again after that.
I think that armor was a bit too much.
Yeah, I think if they gradually built that up, that would have been cool. If you had him in like regular armor before,
and then he looked like that by the ending, maybe that would be all right.
Think about the first Turtle movie where it starts off and you only see his gauntlet every now and then, and then finally there's that big shot where you see his shadow come in, and then the camera's like craning down behind him,
Much more dramatic reveal.
Yeah, it was so much better. So I think they could.
Another thing I want to say is like this movie didn't like have anything really that made you feel good. With the original Turtle movie, when the credits came out and the turtles jump out and it was like dun 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 and all that music, it was fucking awesome, and it made you. It was like really fun. This movie, I guess it had some parts that were kind of fun to it, but not nearly as. It just was not as fun as the original movie. I thought. Yeah,
and I think a lot of it comes down to this is a Ninja Turtles movie, so we have really high expectations of it. And, going back to our old video again, like, look, I think, what's the video called? It's called Our Thoughts. There'll be a link on the screen.
It was like thoughts on the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie or something like that.
Yeah, we did a few years ago.
And now here it is. We just saw it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, a lot of what we said that we wanted is missing. There is no Dimension X. There is no Technodrome. There is no Krang. There is a lot that I would have wanted to see in the movie that's not in it.
Right.
But it's not. They didn't leave everything out. It was like there still is.
Yeah.
Things that we wanted. It's not the worst we could have asked for. It's not the best. I think it's in the middle. To me, it's okay. It's worth seeing, but it might not be. It's not worth like. I don't think it's going to be like repeated viewings or anything like that.
I'll probably forget about this movie in a few days, honestly.
Or until they come out with the next one, which I hope. For good and for bad, I think that. It's time to get a new series of Turtle movies out. It'll be good to see more, because maybe the next time, maybe there will be Krang in the next one, or, Bebop and Rocksteady. You never know what they could do with the next one.
As long as they don't do a fucking prequel story in the next one.
Yeah.
Go to the next story, get Krang in there, get Bebop, get Rocksteady, get the Technodrome, go on to the next story, and maybe like redesign the Turtles a little bit, make them look like a little less gross and a little more appealing. Yeah. That would really help.
Yeah, it took long enough for there to be a new Turtle movie, so, let's get it going again.